After the madness of the last week, part 2 of the keep, sell and loan list is here. Check out part 1 here if you like, but otherwise, let's just get into it. Mohamed Elneny. Mohamed Elneny is in the 99th percentile for pass completion when compared to midfielders in the top 5 leagues. He's always been a tidy passer who gives you reliable receiving angles and retention, even if he sometimes hides in the cover shadow. And that stat is probably significantly skewed by the amount of short, simple passes he makes. His progressive numbers are not good. But Elneny showed a great deal more progression in the final few weeks of the season than I thought he was able to. He showed for it, turned his shoulder and played forward, which takes courage and bravery, so credit to him. A winning mentality gets over-indexed because it's easier to form narratives around. Ultimately, if you can trap a ball 3% better than your opponent, when the pressure's on, you're nervous and the crowd's on your back, you can trust your feet and give yourself some breathing space. It's not his mentality, it's Elneny's technical level that's the issue. Limitations always get shown up at some point. In the top 4 run-in, those limitations flared up. In the crucial Tottenham and Newcastle games, his shoulders dropped and he receded to crouching over the ball and hiding. As the adrenaline pumped, the ball started bouncing off him and he found himself chasing after it, drawn to the ball. Whether you wanted him to or not, Elneny is staying. And I do understand keeping him around for at least one more season on comparatively low wages to keep Partey out of the red zone. If we're not going to sign someone to truly compete with Thomas Partey and we're giving Sambi Lokonga more time, Elneny can bridge that experience gap for next year and perhaps longer. I really doubt we'll be seeing him in the Premier League much. Upon signing his new deal, Elneny said, "I love this club and I feel like part of this family." He said he wants to finish his career here, and Mikel says he's one of the most important players at the club. To have committed, hard-working professionals who are consistent and who have a wealth of experience in your squad is a blessing. That is important for those 1% gains and the culture, even if it does lower your technical floor. NA really, but keep in a further reduced capacity. Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka's improvement under Mikel Arteta is really not spoken about enough. His mobility issues and heavy reliance on his left foot mean his shooting, passing and receiving angles are all incredibly limited. But his shift further forwards and slightly into the left half space have shown us the best of Granit Xhaka. He's probably playing the best football of his Arsenal career. Give Xhaka the keys to the house and he'll keep it in good condition for you. When Xhaka signed for us, he was a double pivot player, requiring a more athletic and forward-thinking midfield partner like Aaron Ramsey to offer the dynamism, while he remained an outball and facilitated progression up the left flank. Now Xhaka has lofted balls over the top, he breaks lines with more consistency, and he has an urgency to his game that's in stark contrast to the slightly cautious passion ball he was playing before. He's still really a pivot player, but he recognises his limitations and adapts to it, opening out his body to his favoured foot and progressing the ball even further forward. So, do we keep him? I'm sure Arteta wants him around to kind of set the tone in training, and there is some value to that. Though I have to say the lack of explicit responsibility taken in the strange black and white video released earlier on in the year did rub me up the wrong way. There's a consistent flirtation with the Bundesliga, somewhere I'm sure he'd feel more comfortable, with more spaces in the distances on the field. He evidently doesn't want to leave with the fact that he's never qualified for the Champions League with Arsenal hanging over his head. I think this one all depends on how our other business goes. Reportedly, the Tielemans deal is lined up and we're completing other business before we consider our options there. Fans will panic, but I think it makes sense. We have more options than we might believe at left 8. There was a brilliant, as ever, bit on the Arsenal Vision podcast recently, where Clive Palmer discussed the possibility of Erdegaard coming into the left 8 role. The potential Rafinha signing will mean less adaptation needed on the exterior, so we won't have to play with more of an interior left like Emile Smith-Rowe as much. Lisandro Martinez then might be able to invert from left back and sit in the pocket where Xhaka likes to, meaning the 8 sits further up on the inside left lane, as opposed to the left fullback as it's been before on the outside, for example Tierney. With Emile Smith-Rowe, Sambi and even Saka, there's lots of options at that left 8. This all might render Xhaka redundant. It all depends on what Arteta wants to do, and I'm really excited to see how he solves that conundrum. I don't think he'll do what we expect him to do, and I think that side will be slightly restructured. I personally would opt for the fabled Xhaka replacement, I just don't think he will. Sell. Just. Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is a simple one. He's criminally underrated, probably one of the best single pivot players in world football. He's definitely in the Rodri and Fabinho conversations. His deep progression, defensive positioning, ability to spring forward and get through and around, and his almost superhuman capacity to reach around players and pinch the ball are all world class. There's nothing technical for me to say. Go and watch his performance against Manchester City at the Emirates and you'll see what I mean. It's all about his fitness. Unless he can remain fit, he will never be considered in that class by anyone other than Arsenal fans, and he'll never truly be able to show what he can do. I hope Arteta can manage his load a bit better, but as I say always with non-impact injuries, the player must manage themselves too. No one else can feel his muscles for him. Get in the gym and strengthen around those hamstrings. Keep, obviously. Martin Erdegaard. This boy is going to explode next season. Arteta recently said, "What Martin is doing now, you do not see on the field now. We see it in 3 months, 6 months, or a year." When other players such as Aaron Ramsdale talk about Erdegaard, they speak about how close he is to Mikel, describing him as the teacher's pet. Erdegaard is hungry to improve, and you can see that on the pitch. His body position when receiving the ball is always top class, the optimal setup to immediately progress or find a teammate. He leads the press intelligently, ensuring the passing lanes are blocked before advancing further, and his combinations with Xhaka, well, it's always worth keeping in mind how young these guys are. He speaks about the little details Arteta works on with him, finding the right spaces in the game, what parts of the pitch to attack, and the optimal movements when linking up with other players. I would like to see him add some more urgency to his attacking game. I think his ridiculous technical level means he's never felt under much pressure on the ball, so he takes time to pick a pass, which isn't always a bad thing, but sometimes it doesn't suit the game state. Some ladder work and 2v1 situations in training might help him to skip past players and get his shot off sooner. Something I'd like to see him do more of as one of our front five. He's in the 28th percentile for shots when compared to other attacking midfielders in the top 5 leagues. Keep at all costs. How we managed to pay 30 million for him, I will never know. Alba Sambi Lokonga. I really like Sambi. Smooth player, glides across the pitch, and had a relatively secure first season. He scans extremely well, and I think as his body matures, he'll be able to show off more of his excellent football IQ. He's good with both feet, and he's great at receiving off the first line and driving forward. In the team of progressors Arteta is trying to build, he fits right in. He always wants the ball, and he always finds pockets to receive it. I want to pick out one moment, Crystal Palace away when he comes on for Thomas Partey. He drops to receive from Xhaka and finds himself in a good deal of space as Palace sit in a low block. He notices the movement from Nketiah ahead of him. A lot of midfielders at 3 down and at his age would attempt a lofted ball or go first time, but instead he delays his pass and ends up timing it to perfection. It's a really inconsequential bit of play, but I remember watching it and thinking, smart player. There's a lot of detail that we miss. I'm nothing majorly specific. Possibly his shot technique could use some work. He needs to try and strike through the ball a bit more. Sometimes his shots look a bit feeble. It also might be worth trying him out in a number of zones on the pitch to see what works for him. I think he'll play at number 8 a bit more this season, like he did at Everton on the final day. Vincent Kompany speaks glowingly about him. When someone of his stature who's played with such a player calls him the new Yaya Toure, we may have something special on our hands. If we sign 2 top-class midfielders this summer capable of playing 8 and 6, I might consider sending him out on loan, but I don't think that will happen. He's a modern central midfielder in every sense. He's 22, give him time, let him grow into his body, and I think we'll see a really special player. As we've seen from his time at Anderlecht, he can also be a leader. Keep. Emile Smith-Rowe. Smith-Rowe has all the ingredients to be a top player. Tall, elegant, both feet, can receive, can pass, can shoot. He's a great goal threat, and though I wouldn't go as far as Jamie Carragher, who says he's the best player in the Premier League at this, he is excellent at carrying the ball. His goal and shot numbers speak for themselves. I just can't quite work out what he is. He's not a wide player who I think we want to hug the touchline. He's not quite an 8 or an interior, and he's not quite a false 9 yet. In a way, it doesn't really matter for us because it means we can use him in so many game states and so many different zones. It more matters for him. If I were him, I'd be in Arteta's ear asking what zone of the pitch he thinks is best and try to nail it down. If not, he might be caught in the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation. Not enough minutes for the quality of player he is. Stick with me because I know this might sound mental, but he might do well on a loan, especially if he was guaranteed a place in the zone that he picks. I don't think we should or would do it, but if he played every game in a season in a Conor Gallagher type way, he might come back to Arsenal with a bigger reputation and be an almost guaranteed starter. If I were him and his representatives, I might push for that in January, dependent on how things go. He took the 10 too early for me, like I said last year, though I do like the ambition. There's something going on with his fitness. He lacks the explosiveness and the ability to ride a challenge that we saw at the beginning of his Arsenal career, and there's a reluctancy to put in a tackle and a tendency to cut inside instead of trying to beat his man on the outside. Smith-Rowe is faster than we think. Watch his goal for England under-21s here. Why doesn't he use it? I was half expecting at the end of the season we'd hear something about a surgery on a hip or something that would mean he'd miss some of the pre-season. Maybe we will, who knows. Perhaps the Amazon documentary will shed some light on a secret season-long struggle. Nothing technical really from a fan perspective. I'd like to see his ego grow a little bit, to a good level. He's extremely humble, which isn't a bad thing for his age, it just might see him fade into the background a bit. There's plenty of humble players who don't demand what they want and get lost. Keep, though if a crazy offer came in, I really would consider it. Perhaps the mighty Aston Villa, who are a bigger club than us by the way, would be a good location for his UEFA Champions League dream. Nicolas Pepe. Sell, sell, sell. Looks disinterested, looks like he doesn't want to play for Arteta, and despite a decent end to the 2021 campaign, he hasn't pushed on. Saka hasn't helped, but That's the game. At some point, as much as a player excites you in theory, it's just time to move on. It's best for all parties. I've nothing to say. You know his limitations. He can't hack positional play. He needs wide spaces. That's that. One of the worst deals in Arsenal's history, and I don't even blame anyone who's still at the club. Sell. Anything above 15 million would do for me. Bukayo Saka. The star boy. Get the quality around him and get his feet up on the sofa for the Carabao Cup games and Europa League games. We've asked the man who was doing his GCSEs in 2018 to carry the club for the last 2.5 years. He is good enough for that, but we don't want another Wilshere situation. He's so robust, his ability to beat a man 1v1 on the inside or outside is incredible, and Arteta and Southgate can't speak highly enough of him. He can hug the touchline, pull inside or go beyond, all with equal verve and elegance. I recently watched one of his early Europa League games too, and I forgot how good he could be centrally. His finishing could use some work, but that will come with time and shooting drills. With the talent he has, he can start pulling rank, and he has started to do so with the penalties. Let's hope the club can match his ambition, because this guy is going right to the very top. Sell to Man City in summer 2024. Wait, what was the question? Keep. Gabriel Martinelli. Top player, top mentality. He reminds me of that kid at school who was obsessed with football. Football posters on the wall and drawing Dream 11s in maths. That guy. I think at some point next season we'll see a new side of Martinelli, a Ronaldo-esque clutch player. His finishing is excellent. It's just about picking up more positions and being a bit smarter with the out-to-in runs. I don't doubt at some point next season we'll have a dip in form which Martinelli may pull us through. He's that kind of player. You don't go from Ituano to the Premier League without some self-belief. He's a great pressing forward, and with 5 subs coming in next season, he may be able to burn himself out for 60 minutes and then get replaced. I love the little winks he does to the camera. He knows. Keep. Simple. Finally, Eddie Nketiah. I'm torn on Eddie's new deal. Financially, in terms of the whole package, it does make sense, and I accept this may be a grass isn't always greener situation, but I just can't see how he gets us where we want to go. He's supposedly an incredible trainer and genuinely a great all-round striker, but with the minutes he'll be wanting, is it worth it? I was an advocate of getting a tall, wide man who can play through the middle when we need it, and I think we still lack an aerial threat. What does Nketiah do that Jesus can't? How does it all piece together? I just can't quite see it, though I am happy to be wrong. Perhaps the plan is to sell him in the next couple of years, and the contract does protect that value. Technically, his all-round game has really improved, and he said he's been working on it with Arteta. I would like to see him work on his first touch, sometimes it bounces off him, and as a relatively small player, his good positioning in the box is imperative. As much as we have a vision of him as a fox in the box, against top-level centre-backs, they usually work him out. Keep. Not that it matters now. So, there you go. Squad assessed. This summer is going to be pretty long, but if you got this far into the video, you're probably a pretty patient person anyway. So I just wanted to say this. Priority does not equal strategy. Going for a player first does not necessarily mean they are top of your list. Remember the scraps of information we're dealing with and trust the club to get it right. Be patient and most of all, enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for watching The Different Knock. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please consider supporting us on Patreon monthly or head to buymeacoffee.com for one-time support. You can find me at AMOnFootball on Twitter and we're at DiffKnock on all social media. Also, check out our podcast. All the links are in the video description. Thanks.